So, good morning, everybody. And maybe just to Viv and Nikki, thank you very much for this opportunity. It's really special being able to come here and be with you. And it feels like we're so connected, all of us in so many ways. It feels like these rhizomatic connections through history and time and memory. So our paper, Kara and I decided especially not to present in a PowerPoint form, because we feel that part of that is about relationality, and we tend to kind of lose that through cell phones and more to kind of connect and really connect with feelings and memory. So the title of our paper is Homage to a Gentle Giant: Concepts, Creativity and Collaboration in Our Flowing with Elmarie Costandius. And just to say that the three of us came together and met with Viv and Nikki and Denise, yourself, and Daniela, and many others through a process where we engaged in what Elmarie would call serious playfulness. And I think she was well known for that, creating those spaces where academics could come together and really engage with very complex and difficult issues like decoloniality in complex contexts, and not feel, I won't say not feel threatened, but do engage with deep, probably painful issues at times, in a collaborative and caring way. And Denise, you'll remember we met, and out of that meeting in also Mount Fleur, we came out with a publication, Reconfiguring Scholarship, Doing Academic Writing, Publishing and Reviewing Differently. A really amazing process. And it was a long, I think we were together for about 4 or 5 days, where we really actually experienced the processes of emergence, multimodality, and we're going to speak about that. And I think all of us were really shocked at the passing of Elmarie, and it brought up many moments and many thoughts and many memories for all of us, but also a huge commitment to what does this mean for how we as academics go forward in the world and take the legacy that Elmarie is and has left with us forward. So when we joined you, Viv, in that initial workshop with Denise and everybody else, I think the three of us as checkmates, we were kind of on that threshold of moving from humanism to post-humanism. And I think it was I just thought what I'll do is maybe just read. We're gonna read poems and then pieces from the paper. And this was just kind of our transition then, and tentatively feeling it out. So I wrote about that experience, that an ontological turn. We say something anew, to say something anew, to see something anew. Intelligibility no longer, human touching and feeling, out of the rut, sitting with the gut, water, fire and ice, touching, earthing, becoming through multiple connections, letting go of the I, the me, the we, beginning again, floundering, refusing order, words, thinking the thought. And maybe that speaks to some of the kind of confusion and kind of turmoil that we were going through, but it was done in a way in which Elmarie would guide us through processes where we would spend a lot of time reflecting and thinking very carefully about how this influenced our own work as academics and our teaching and learning. So maybe just to come back a little bit more to the paper. So we'd often engage with many of the texts with the new materialist, post-humanist texts, and kind of really grapple with the concepts and ideas which are really complicated. I mean, terms like indeterminacy, the void, and they're not easy to kind of go into. And for this paper, we decided to work with the term, to engage with the term. It's a Derridian term of hauntology, and what that means. So Derrida, as well as Barrard, have engaged, and other scholars. And so we've invoked hauntology as a way to return to and honor and extend the intellectual legacy of Elmarie, and maybe to really reflect upon what does it mean when we talk about the void in relation to hauntology. What does it really mean for us? And I think it connects with your presentation previously. What does it require of us going forward? So what I wanted to do was just to share a little bit about some of the thinking related to hauntology. So some of you might be very familiar with it, but so just from a Derradian perspective is, if I can just read this. So according to Derrida, hauntology is fundamentally linked to a disruption of the conventional means of measuring time and space. As all kinds of, as well as all kinds of dichotomous conceptualizations, including the sharp distinction between the real and the unreal, the actual and the inactual, the living and the non-living, being and non-being. So Davis talks about hauntology as replacing the priority of being and presence with a figure of the ghost as that which is neither present nor absent, neither dead nor alive. So hauntings, according to Derrida, are matters of injustice and timelessness, matters of time out of joint. And Davis talks about hauntology merging the ideas of haunting and ontology, and explores the interconnectedness of the past, the present, and the lost future, as well as those neither present nor absent, as we address issues of justice. And I think for those of us that know the work that Elmarie did at Stellenbosch University, it spoke really deeply to issues of social justice and the deep commitment it requires to remembering and returning constantly. So what we're going to do is really speak about our experience of engagement in that process with Elmarie. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to dominate, but and
she's our spokesperson.
No. Just to say how the process started. Often in academic papers, they want to say, "What's your methodology? How did you start doing this?" So I'm going to ask Cara to speak about that because it started in Cara's office, and we had already been working with the whole issues around diffraction, and thinking of we have to move out of these spaces of the way we normally do this. And Cara would start off with opening Cara's office doors and then her cupboard.
Yeah, so we when this whole article came about, we decided to go back and you spoke about, Denise spoke about receiving that envelope from you with all these images. And it reminded me of kind of our process, because I had from all our workshops, I had collected all the artifacts and the images and the things that we made and created, and it was in one big box, and the box was in my office. And when we decided, let's go back to our box, let's go back to our work that we've done, and it was so amazing. The three of us delved into that box, and there were so many memories and emotions that came out of that box when we started recollecting and putting the things together, and the three of us, and how, and I think Belinda will talk a little bit about the concept development, but how our individual processes that Elmarie took us through in the concept development and what we created. And then the three of us decided to, let's take this a little bit further and throw the three of our concepts together and see what comes out from that in the workshop that we had at Montfleur. So we're writing about that in the article, kind of that process that we went through, but also how when we opened our box and we started reliving kind of the emotions and the remembering that took place in that process.
And Viv, you talk about in one of the articles that you wrote in 22 about returning and as being turning over and over again, the ghosts that have been forgotten. And I think emotionally, a lot of us didn't want to go there. I mean, Elmarie was quite close to me. She was a neighbor. So, I lived next door to the people that taught her son. And would often see Elmarie in our little eco village where we stayed. So all the emotions sit there. The emotions are connected to every single artifact, but it's not always an easy place to go. And as we picked up, the sculptures and then the cut up versions of library books, and then thought of the process and how deeply meaningful it was. And the processes that we went through with Elmarie took us so deeply into ourselves and into each other and into the higher education landscape. So it was a really important process. So, it kind of, in more academic speak, I want to say, well, the data were generated through reflexive diffraction. And we really did do that because we recorded those moments of engagement, and then slowly the paper started to emerge through that process. And it really is it's a living dynamic. The data's not dead. I think McClure talks about that as well. And it was an incredibly important process to write this paper. And we're now going to speak about how some of the learnings and processes that Elmarie took us through have then influenced our own teaching and student learning. So I'm going to hand over to, I don't know, B, if you want to go now. So feel free.
Yeah, this is now the story of the three checkmates. These two are all over the place. They tell me they're going to read extracts from the paper and then they don't. And now I'm hanging out here, not knowing what to do.
Sorry.
So I'm going to try and pull out thoughts. I'm going to try and pull out thoughts together again, checkmates. But
because was it check? Okay. So we during before and after the whole Fallist processes with student protest against what was happening, I think all of us would we would attend. What helped us survive was attending the workshops that we used to run with the CHE. I think is it Education Consortium. So that was where the checkmates came from, and we made a connection there, and it started our journeys of developing and learning and thinking about scholarship of teaching and learning, and also shifting our own ways of thinking about the world and ourselves and how we teach and learn. So we became these mates that were linked to check courses. So then we started present together and then write together.
And then we started writing together. So, and we still try and meet up and read and talk, and we don't do as much writing as we're supposed to, but we still do. So this is actually very good when we got together for this article, because it took us back.
So maybe personality-wise, Belinda is often the person that she's the engineer. She'd bring us back and put all the ducks in a row, and Karen and I would be jumping like frogs out of the box all the time. So be over to you.
Over to you.
Yeah. I think so our paper has to do with the flow process and concept development that Elmarie introduced us to. So maybe I'm just going to read a bit of a snippet out of the paper, like they're saying, just to give some structure to what we are talking about in the paper. So Elmarie's flow process came about during a time of student protest and uncertainty in the higher education landscape. And you will all recall the 2015-16 Fellows movement, and this was her response to what was going on in that higher education space. And she created a series of workshops that served as an experimental space where lecturers and students engage in serious conversations, but in a playful manner, as Karen was mentioning earlier. And this workshop opened up space for bodily and cognitive engagement and became a way to be, think, act differently, which for all of us opened up spaces to move forward during this very difficult time in higher education. And as a group, we had a privilege to engage with these workshops where the flow process was instrumental in unblocking the challenges and obstacles we experienced in our own individual research at that specific time. We came into those workshops with very different challenges that we wanted to unblock. What stood out for us was how this flow process of concept development provided conditions to move beyond linear thinking and traditional methodologies, allowing for experimentation, exploration, and the creation of new possibilities that can lead to new knowledge and understanding. And of special value was the introduction of serious play. Or as Elmarie put it, play reminds us that we can imagine differently. In a playful academic space, we are unshackled by expectations and the output-driven consciousness that persist in higher education. We experience a sense of freedom, of creativity and purpose that was seldom recognized or celebrated as the foundation for new and often unexpected concepts and thoughts that emerge. I can remember coming together in Caro's office and really first have Karen would call it a check-in session, but it usually was more of a moan session just to unshackle ourselves of getting rid of all the things that's holding us back. Then the flow process led us to concept development and developing new concepts. Now, all of you who went through that would know that it is very difficult to, within your discipline, develop new concepts because the foundational concepts that are there are so intrinsic. But so with the flow process, we were introduced to new ways of engaging with concept development by breaking free from established thought patterns and creating new conceptual territories. By integrating philosophy with other disciplines, particularly the arts, Elmarie demonstrated how Deleuze's conceptual flow and the zigzag process could be used as tools for interdisciplinary and, very importantly, transdisciplinary exploration. The aim was to use an art-making process to inspire the creation of new concepts that can influence how we think and how we act and how we approach our research. During the workshops, we used elements of nature, of our different senses, of positioning ourselves in a context, of thinking about political, economical, social spaces, thinking about serious academic theory, and then creating our new concepts from there. We were encouraged to play and create with various materials to let the association flow freely without trying to be logical. Linking the ideas of our original concepts, materials, and self took us on various potential paths, often sideways, as Elmarie would remark. This opened up new meanings that we were all surprised with. We couldn't believe that we're coming up with these wonderful new ideas and thoughts. We were guided in letting associations emerge in a non-linear way, not shying away from the often bizarre or humorous outcomes to create mind maps illustrating all these different new connections. We took the process a step further, like I don't know which one of my mates said it earlier, but we diffracted our new 3 individual concepts through one another to see what further chaos we can actually create. We called our new concept terrological transformation, the process of reimagining and reshaping our relationship with the earth, the terra, by integrating our individual concepts of Karen, yours were creativity, and Caro was digital innovation, and mine was collaboration, to try and drive change. This terrological transformation can thus be seen as a convergence of human creativity, technological innovation, and collaborative action, all directed towards regenerating the earth and promoting sustainable, equitable futures for all. The transformative potential lies in the entangled, agentile cuts that emerge from these interactions, offering new ways to represent our planet. Rather than merely reflecting existing knowledge, this process fosters a diffractive practice that respects ecological balance and promotes social progress by engaging with the material consequences of these interactions. Over the last 4 years, this concept of terological transformation has continuously shaped our learning together, our teachings, our research, and our community engagement. I'm going to hand over to you again, Caro, or Karen. I don't know who's doing.
Karen, do you want to talk
about those
more?
three, how we applied to the three.
Okay.
Quickly, yeah.
The three,
time.
the three innovations, these ones. My mates always have a lot to say, so I'm going to just try and just quickly tell us, give an impression of how we've used it in our individual practice. So, for Karen, you had the kind of where you used it with your class, with your honor students. So Karen has used it with her honor students. Maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, very briefly. I teach an honors postgrad class on enabling educational change and innovation to educational leaders. And we use the flow process to explore the concept of change in a deeply embodied way. And I took students through the processes Elmarie had engaged us with. And it was a really profound experience because people could connect to their complex histories. And we had conversations in the class that we would never have had if we hadn't gone to those depths. So I continue to use it, and we continue to innovate on some of those practices.
And I think, Belinda, you've also used it in your practice with your students in terms of the flow process and concept creation.
I think the important thing for me is not just using it with my students. I think the power lies in students coming up with new concepts that they don't think they are mature enough to come up with new knowledge. And going through this process actually allows them to come up with something totally new. But more importantly, every time that I'm stuck with my research, to this point, when I'm writing a paper or anything, I go back to the concept development and I get unstuck. So I continuously use the process as well.
And I think Belinda and I started also an extension from the Czech courses. There was a course on co-creation. And we did that and then decided, let's see how we can create chaos by throwing our students together. So I teach information systems and Belinda teaches in urban and regional planning. So we decided, right, we're putting our students, we're throwing them together and they have to come up with innovations within marginalized settings. And it's usually related to sustainability. So we really try and this stemmed from this whole terological transformation concept that we jointly developed. We tried to get Karen involved as well, but then we thought the chaos is just going to be too much. So we kind of stuck with the information systems and urban planning students at that stage. And it's amazing how by just letting us flow and thinking and how this whole concept was created and then applying it to our practice, the amazing things that came out. And we often reflect on that and think, that was a concept on that day. And we thought, wow, what can this be? And how much that has kind of evolved in terms of our practice. I think I'm just gonna how much time do we have left? I'm just gonna quickly just read from the conclusion. So let's let Bruce in. There we go. So I think what we did is to we recount in this paper how the process has generated new frameworks for understanding complex societal challenges connected to our histories. We remembered how and reconnected with what we did. And it helped us to reconnect with the past influences and their role in inhabiting and shaping present and future possibilities. And from this, the need to cultivate spaces that nurture creative, collaborative, and embodied ways of engaging with knowledge in the world. Such spaces foster the kind of experimental, interdisciplinary learning that Almarie championed. Second, the integration of multimodal approaches in teaching and research. That deserves further exploration, particularly in addressing complex societal challenging. By incorporating natural elements and multimodal experiences, the flow process can guide academics to reconnect with themselves, their histories, and their role in addressing social justice and decolonial practices in higher education. This approach has particularly relevance in contexts marked by social transformation and uncertainty. Finally, it reinforces the transformative potential of maintaining collaborative networks that support continuous experimentation and shared learning, which is really what it was for us and hopefully continue to be for us in our practice. Karen, do you want a final word? Belinda, do you want a final word?
No, Karen can have it.
That concludes it.
Our time is up. Okay, there we go.
Did we stay in time? That's weird.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.